little diagram there that I'll be using that shows the genealogy of Terah, himself, the descendant of Shem. I know, and I thought I sent it full page, but I don't know what happened when I looked at it. I said, why is it so small? It could be that it's not Pam's fault. It's probably, it didn't come across the way I thought I did.
Oh, yeah, well, we knew it wasn't Pam.
I didn't even have to say that, did I?
Well, I can see that, but I can...
So tonight, we've titled what we're looking at tonight as Abram, because it's kind of centered around that character. Of course, everybody remembers that's the original name of Abraham later, but at this period of time that we're looking at tonight, his name was Abram, right? So it's a period of time about 1997 to 1922 BC. And so we'll get into that. Of course, we're going to, as time goes along in this chronological flow, we'll see other events that involve Abraham beyond what we'll look at tonight. So the first thing we want to look at is the birth of Abram, and that's back on page 5, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, page 5, yeah. So you already have that. Putting it at about 1997 BC, and to give the full rundown of who he is, we're talking about Abram, the son of Terah, the son of Nahor, the son of Serug, the son of Reu, the son of Peleg, the son of Eber, the son of Salah, the son of Arphaxad, the son of Shem is born. So Abram's in that line of Shem, which the Bible informs us is the line of Messiah, right? And that's why we focus in on that event so much and upon the line of Shem so much, is because that's the line that is very important to biblical teaching. So let's start out. Somebody want to be brave enough to read these verses in Genesis 11.
Terah lived 70 years and fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. These are the family records of Terah. Terah fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran fathered Lot. Haran died in his native land, in Ur of the Chaldeans, during his father Terah's lifetime. Abram and Nahor took wives. Abram's wife was named Sarai, and Nahor's wife was named Milcah.
Milcah, who married Magnesia, Dave said. All right, going on.
She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Iscah. Sarai was unable to conceive. She did not have a child. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they set out together from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years and died in Haran.
All right, so that's the biblical reference of these events that we're sort of camping things around tonight. Is this birth of Abram? They're living in Ur. They're moving to Ur. They're moving back to Haran, and Terah dying. This is sort of the time frame that we're in within the biblical story. Now, most certainly, Haran was the eldest son of Terah. Appears to have been born when Terah was about 70 years of age. His birth was followed in a succession of births, as we hear. Nahor the second, Abram the youngest. Why is it listed and seems otherwise? Well, because Abram gets the first place attention in the story of the Bible. That's why. So many have been puzzled about that, of Abram being mentioned first, but and they think therefore he was the oldest, but he's only put first because of dignity. Does that make sense? Because of the place that Abraham plays in history, so that it's mentioned first. And we've already seen something like that happening in Genesis 5:32, where Noah is represented as having Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? Shem's not the oldest, you know, but why? They list it that way because that's the line of Messiah. That's what they're focusing in on. And so the Bible's focusing in on a spiritual story, right? It's not concerning itself with who was born first and all that type of thing, except where it's needed. So, Japheth, of course, being the oldest in the truth of when they were born. So, that's not unusual. Then you saw that it said that Terah lived 205 years in Genesis 11:32. Then Abram departed from Haran when he was 75. See that in Genesis 12. Therefore Abram was born not when his father Terah was 70, but when he was 130. So that's how you get to know that who was born first and those type of things. So Abram was born in Ur, and modern day Iraq, right? And then went with Terah to Haran. Now, what we forget is these descendants of Shem were living more to the north, that area around Turkey, right? And they kind of spread out from there. Descendants of Shem primarily in Armenia, which is still there today, right? The only nation that was named after the flood that still has the same name today. And so they were up in that area, and particularly around the area of Syria, modern-day Syria. And Terah moved down. He moved south, right? That's a pattern that, as I've said, we still have today. People moving south. But then Terah breaks that pattern and goes north. And that's why he died. No, just kidding. But when they packed up and moved from Ur and went back up to the Syria area to Haran, they were going back to area they knew. That's where the family came from. So they were going back to their roots when they moved back up there. And we might speculate a little bit as we go along tonight as to why they moved back. So that's where we are. There's the chart. Look how big it is there. I don't know why it came out so small on that one. Yeah. So you can probably see it better up here than you can on the handout. We'll see if we can't get a bigger one for you next week, because we might use this again as we go along, right? So let's take a look at this. 1 Chronicles chapter 1 also gives this rundown of the descendants of Abram. And so just to give an overview of this, let's look at some things. So we have Terah here, right? And because the scripture lists it kind of this way, we got Abram over here, Sarah, Nahor, Haran. Now, the descendants of Shem, the line of Messiah, goes through Terah down to Abram, right? So you look at this, you see, though, that there are descendants of Sarai. You have Isaac, right? He's the one that's going to be the continuation of the line of Shem and the line of Messiah through Jacob and Esau, right? And then on down. So you've got Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? The statement that is made so much. And Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and had 12 sons, right? And all of that. But we sometimes forget that through Hagar, you've got Ishmael, right? And there are, if you can really squint down, there's a lot of descendants of Ishmael. But who are the modern day descendants of Ishmael?
Hamas.
Yeah, the Arabic people, right? Now understand, there are Arabic people's descendants of Ishmael that are believers. Okay, so it's not, this is family line, not spiritual line. Although the descendants of Ishmael are through Muhammad, who was the Arabic descendant of Ishmael, you have the starting of a false religion that we call Islam, right? But you can't say all Arabic people are Muslim. They're not. The city of Bethlehem is a Arabic town, but the majority of people in Bethlehem are Christian. Okay, David Kabash, a friend of mine, runs a what do you call it? A shop where they sell tourist stuff.
Market. Gift shop.
A gift shop. Thank you. Strangest things fly out of my head. I forget what a gift shop. But he has a gift shop there, very fine one that we always take groups to there in Bethlehem to support the Christian brothers and sisters there in Bethlehem. Everybody following me here? Just the same as you can't say everybody in Israel's Jewish. No, it's a democracy. There are atheists, there are Hindus, there are Buddhists, there's Muslims, there's Christians, there's Jews. You can be a citizen of Israel, be whatever you want to be, because it's a free democracy, as opposed to the rest of the countries over there. Roger?
Yeah, on your chart up there, it has coming down from the top, Terah. It shows that on Sarah, where the line comes down to her, how was she related to Terah?
To who?
The top guy.
In that she married Abram. Yeah.
Okay, so the line really should have come down over to Abraham.
Yeah, the little line is not appropriately placed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
But they were brothers,
They were-
just had different mothers.
It's the same father, but different mother.
Yeah.
But any way you put it, the line goes through, and they're trying to emphasize that the line goes through the marriage of Abraham and Sarah, not through the line of Abraham and Hagar. That's what they're trying to show here.
Okay.
Okay, you do see over that there are other Arabic people, right, besides the descendants of Ishmael.
Yeah.
Because you got Nahor, these people, you got Haran and these people, and here's Lot over here, right? And you have a guy named Moab. You ever hear of that? The rest of, yeah, right. So you hear about Laban, right? And so, you know, as we go along, understand that when you say Arabic people, you're not talking about Islam. Islam doesn't come along until the 80s, right? And not the 80s, 80, but the AD, in the year of our Lord. And so sometimes that people get mixed up on these descendants. So the seed of Abraham in the covenant that God says, I'm going to do thus and so, and if you will, I will, you know, covenant. And we're going to look at the Abrahamic covenant tonight. But that is not race. Okay? As a matter of fact, that covenant could be kept with it by anyone in the world. Jew, Gentile, doesn't matter. They were supposed to be a priest nation to the nations, as you know, as it goes along. So the seed of Abraham is a seed of faith and covenant keeping, not race. All of these people are Arabic in nature. of that type of race, of those people. But the true seed of Abraham biologically is over here, but that includes all of those, right? So, what does it mean when the New Testament says that we today, as followers of Jesus Christ, are the true seed of Abraham? Now, don't understand, it's not saying that Jewish descendants of Abraham through Isaac and Jacob and all of that, it's not saying they're not seed of Abraham. It's saying what is the true seed of Abraham? It is a seed of faith. Okay? Into this line of Shem through Abraham, but we're grafted in how? Through Jesus, by faith, right? And we do what Abraham did, a total faith in God. And we show our faith by the statement of Jesus is the very Son of God, the Messiah. We confess that, and we believe in our heart that God raised Him from the dead, and we're saved, and we're grafted in, right? It doesn't take away from the seed of Abraham in a biological sense, doesn't take away from that, but it does express to us what it means. So, I could be a true seed of Abraham, even though I'm a Gentile, and there could be somebody who's a Jew, totally a Jew, all the families, all Jewish, every one of them, you know, there's nobody from the outside there, 100% Jewish, as it were, by birth, and yet they're not the seed of Abraham. Right? Because they abandoned their Messiah. Remember, God says, I will, and if you will, then I will. What will God do for sure that He said up to this point? On what He's going to do about sin.
He's going to destroy it, crush it.
Send a Messiah.
Yeah, He's going to send a Messiah that will crush sin's power, right? And dominion over us. And He says, that's what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter what you do, I'm going to do that, right? So then comes the if I will part of it, right? In our day and age, if I will accept the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior, make Him Lord of my life, I'll be saved, I'll become a child of God, right? If I do that. If I don't, I won't be. And that doesn't matter who you are or what your lineage is. So a little rundown there of Terah, just to show you things that will be coming, of course, in the future as we walk through the timeline of things. So, I believe that the nations there, 1989 through 1981, is on the top of page 6 there. I'm not going to bore you with who these, I mean, we could look at these pharaohs, a lot of them I can show you pictures of statues of what they look like and all that, but I'm not going to waste time on these things, but I do want you to know that stuff is going on in the world other than what's in the Bible at these times. So here's a period of time of 89 to 81 in Sumerian kingdom. That's, you see Sumer down here. Maybe I should do this. You see down here where it says Sumer? That's the Sumerian area. And in this time frame, they had a couple of kings. You say, well, that's not too bad. Well, 81 to 89, how many years is that? 2 kings in 8 years is not very stable. Okay, down in Egypt, you know, that's over beyond the Canaan, over at the far bottom left. They had 3 pharaohs in this time. Remember, historians try to make you think that Egypt was such a stable land and such organized society and how wonderful it is and all of that, but you'll find out as we go along that there's a lot of wars and rumors of wars and people taking people out, and they weren't all that stable. They were fighting for power all the time. Sometimes a pharaoh's only over the upper kingdom. Sometimes the pharaoh's only over the lower kingdom. Sometimes the pharaoh is able to pull both kingdoms together, and then they'll kill him, you know, or something like that. Babylon at the same time had 1 king. Remember where Babylon is, right there. And so they were a little more stable during that period of time. So in 1979 BC, Rev dies. You see him right there, circled right here. So Abraham, he's still alive, you know, when Abraham is alive, but he's they're not lasting as long. He lived, it says in fine print there, 239 years. Compared that to the 900s and 500s and things that you're hearing from people who lived before the flood. So these people living after the flood, their lifespans are starting to degrade at that time. All right, then I've got another period there, 1979 to 1957. Okay, these 19s, you know, for us, those are time back to do. Yeah, what's going on in 1957? But during this time, there is one guy who starts up that becomes important for the story of the Bible as well. When you look at Assyria, which is what we would call modern day Syria, right? When you look in that area, they had two kings during this 22-year period of time. But there's a general, and that's what he looked like, son of Kish. And he's a general. He's not an emperor at this time, though he becomes one. It's the beginning of what we call the Great Assyrian Empire. Are there stories in the Bible that relate to that empire?
They the one that first conquered first 10 tribes up north.
Yeah, they are the ones in their capital at. Well, you should know because of Jonah.
Samaria.
Nineveh, the Assyrian capital, Nineveh, right? It's not there yet, but he's the one who's starting this great empire. So yeah, they're the ones that came into the capital of Samaria, right, in the northern kingdom, and conquered the northern kingdom and carried them away in bondage and took over. And they're the ones that, because of the way they did things, that started the hatred between the southern Jewish people who remained faithful when they were carried off to Babylon, and the Samaritans didn't. They intermarried, and so that northern kingdom, they called them Samaritan dogs, right? But that's all because Assyria rises up as an enemy to Israel and is the one that destroys the northern kingdom of Israel. And then I mentioned another story that involved Assyria just a while ago to remind you of their capital.
Babylon took over Assyria.
Jonah, that's right, Jonah.
Jonah had to go to Nineveh.
Jonah was the one, the prophet that God said, go preach to Assyria. Yeah. Sargon was a very mean person. He established, first of all, what's called the Akkadian Empire. That didn't last very long. It didn't last very long because he wanted to be a bigger empire. And it started, and as time goes along, it becomes what we call the Great Assyrian Empire. He becomes an emperor over that empire. He was vicious, and they remained vicious. How vicious? Well, they would take captors, they would skin them alive, let them heal, and do it again. Not for information, just for fun. They would tie one arm onto one horse and another on another horse, and you get the idea of pull you apart.
Yeah.
They would also use trees to do that. You know how you bend over a tree and tie one arm, one on the other, cut it, and let those trees rip a person apart. Now do you understand why Jonah said, I don't want to go there? I don't want to go there. Yeah. So during this 22-year period of time here, Assyria ends up only having 2 kings. That's pretty stable compared to what we've seen in the past, and that's because of the work of Sargon taking one city, then another city, and you can understand the way he approached things, that cities got to where they were saying, "Come on in. you don't have to defeat us. It's yours, man." During this same period of time, for example, Egypt had 8 different pharaohs, and the Sumerian kingdom had 8 different kings. Now Babylon just had 1. Now this is kind of shaping up the 2 powers, Assyria and then Babylon. And if you know your history, the Assyrians are become very strong, through the work initially of this guy. And then Babylon grows to be strong. And then Persia takes the whole thing eventually. And Cyrus of Persia is who let the southern kingdom people come back home. So these are stories that you don't hear these stories in the Bible, but they're going on in the world, but they do have relationship to what happens in the Bible. And then you notice in 1956, and that's still on page 6 there, that Saruk dies there in the line of Shem. So this family of Shem, they're starting to die. Who hasn't died yet? Shem. And we made some speculation last time, and I'll say it is speculation, and there's some history through Jewish traditions and stuff, but nothing fixed that says that Shem did some stuff, right? He may have visited Egypt and helped out the descendants of his brother Ham, who had gone. He may have gone down to China to help his father Noah, if that's where Noah went. Remember, Noah's still alive. Right? Perhaps he's residing in that Jebusite town, right, that Abraham stops at, and Abram stops at and gives an offering, right, to the king of Salem, Melchizedek, who some have speculated is Shem. Okay? So, you can't prove those things, except there is some evidence through tradition and writings and things of that sort. Then we've got a period there after Saruk dies of 1955 to 1949, which is a period of 6 years. And I'll just point out what we're talking about here. Oops, I hit the wrong button. What we're talking about here is Sumer down here. You're talking about Assyria up here. You're talking about Egypt down here, right? That things are going on during this period of time when biblical things are happening. Assyria, during this period of time of 6 years, 1 king. You see the effect of Sargon. Cush has a king that rises up during this time, and Egypt has 5 pharaohs in 6 years. So, once again, no matter what you may have read in your history books, the facts are the facts, right? And you can't have 5 different pharaohs in 6 years and claim that it's a very stable society. The only way it's a stable society is that they did have chariots and they raised horses, so they had stables. And now, in 1945 BC, Ham finally dies. Okay?
Before we get the dust going in this time part of the country, where is Cush?
Cush, yeah, let me go back to that then. Cush is another one of those cities down here in the Sumer or Shinar, as the Bible calls it, down in this area.
So it's a city, not a country.
It's a city, yeah. And so there's this actually, what this is this is where Sargon is starting out. And he starts out as a general over the army, and now he's made himself to be king. And he's going to then end up starting this big Assyrian empire, which, spreads over all this area. And then once they have had control for a while, then Babylon down here rises up and takes over all this area. And then Persia, the Persians over here, more toward the east, they come in and take over everything. And when they do is when they start taking over so much stuff that even the Greeks get nervous about it, right? And you've got the war where the 300 stood in that valley to hold off the great king from Persia and all those things.
And the Sumer down, that is the same, is that the same Samaria of the Good Samaritan?
No, no, no. That is over here.
Yeah,
That's there was the city of Samaria in Canaan, in the northern kingdom, became the capital of the northern kingdom, which we call Israel, right? The southern kingdom was called Judah, and Jerusalem was the capital. So no, and that's a common question. But no, Sumer and Shinar are two words that you find in the Bible of that area. That's where a lot of the original civilizations after the flood and the Tower of Babel and all that is in that area of Shinar. And these city-states rise up there. And Cush is one of them. And Sargon sort of gets his beginning of empire there.
Cush, wasn't that somehow associated with Africa or Africans, or wasn't it?
No, Africa, you know, is if you look on there, it's clear over here.
No, so
Yeah.
that's why I got a little confused.
Yeah.
I figured
Well,
Cush was
some people try to say and have said, and I even heard it on a show recently. I like Alone. I don't know if you watched that. It's interesting how people survive on their own. It's a program where they truly are on their own, and the person that wins is the one who lasts the longest, and they can't even take food in with them. So it's an interesting. But the newest one that's still going on is called Alone, Africa. What they've done when they started the show, they do up in Canada or Alaska and places, you know, really hard wilderness places. But this one, there's things that'll eat you that they have to put up with. but in that, they said it's in South Africa, and they said at the cradle of mankind. No, that's a disproven fact. As time goes along and they find more, they find the cradle of mankind is over in this area. As they thought before, they thought they found some skeleton of some sort, you know, to change their mind. You know, Satan will do that. He'll try to find anything to try to go opposite of what the Bible tells us to be true. Where is the cradle of mankind? Not the cradle of civilization, the cradle of mankind, where mankind first started. Well, first of all, if you're having that argument, it's because you don't believe the Bible. Because what you're talking about is where did mankind, where did civilization or mankind start up again after the flood? Yeah, and that would be up here in Turkey, Mount Ararat up in this area, and civilization started from here. Japheth went that way, right? And this way, both. Ham went this way. Shem went this way, right? And like I said, they just in the last few years or so up in this area near Armenia, the one country, and several places where they dug up massive limestone carvings and everything that they date to go 10,000 BC. That it changes everything we know. Well, why are you still saying the cradle of humankind is in Africa then? You know, so, oh, it's between the Tigris and Euphrates River over here, right? The continents were all split apart by the flood. Nothing is any longer where it was before. These are two rivers over there. Why did they get those names? The people naming it were alive before the flood and knew those names of rivers that existed. But I tell you what, the river systems of the entire world were changed with the flood, folks. And it's probably the intent of God that you can't find Eden.
One thing I think Dave Mercer was talking about, there's another Cush with a C, C-U-S-H, and that's down in Egypt.
Yes, yes, there is another way that you find it spells of this one is with,
Right.
and sometimes it's called Cush, but you're right. The Cush is a son of Ham, a descendant of Ham, and he started.
So it's two different families.
Yes, that's two different families. The Cush, the typical Cush, is in Africa, and that's a descendant of Ham. And we're talking about Kish in this area, which is remain faithful. Right? Once again, it's covenant. We're talking about a Noahic covenant at this point in time. Are they keeping the covenant? Are they doing Shem's descendants are keeping the covenant and trying to help everybody else and becoming preachers, as it were, in their day and age? Okay, so Ham dies finally. He's done his damage because he led his family far astray of what they knew. Right? Took them far away from keeping the covenant, the Adamic covenant that was passed on to them, and then also the Noahic covenant through God in the world through the ages. And you'll see that coming up many times. Then I have another period here of 1945 through 1924, another 22-year period of time. You notice that in that period of time, well, I didn't list it on your chart, so you might... No, I haven't gotten there yet. Never mind. 1923. Where did I put that?
The bottom of page 6.
23.
Yeah, I didn't put one thing that happened during that period of time, so you can write it in if you want. In 1925 BC. No, I didn't. Okay. So it should be right before Terah and Abram and Haran. You can write in at the bottom of that one thing at 19 and 25 thereabouts is the end of the Ice Age. Remember, we talked about the Ice Age that started. We talked about when it started after the flood. We talked about the height of it, where people could walk across that land bridge because the ice had taken up so much water. There was a land bridge across the top. That's where everybody came from in North America, Central America, South America after the flood. But now this is the end of the Ice Age. Now, why is that important to us? There's a geologist, Michael Ord, he determines that the ice sheets melted between 250 287 years after the maximum that we looked at of the Ice Age. So that's why I'm putting it about where we've got it. These dates, people can have different dates on them. I'm just picking one out to give you the sort of, what it might have been. Nobody kept dates back then. We didn't even have BC and AD. Nobody had it on calendars back then, so you have to kind of piece things out. So we're putting it about 1925 BC. So when the ice ends, then the waters come back up, right? Just like they caused the land bridge, now they're coming back up, and it's isolating some people, and there's evidence of this, and you can go look at what people have to say about that it submerged some coastal cities. They're even finding ancient coastal cities under the sea all over the world that were then submerged. And it might be the reason, think about this, it might be the reason Terah, because where we know for a fact that that's down there, the Red Sea coming up, and you notice we know now where the beach was at one time is not where it is now. So a lot of that area is submerged, and it could be, it doesn't say, but it could be the rising of water at Ur, which is right there by the sea, it would have been very near the sea at that time, would now be underwater, and maybe that was starting to happen at the end of the Ice Age. And so that could be the reason that they said, we're going back up to Syria, to Haran, where we came from. We don't have to worry about drowning there. And, you know, they probably still had stories of people who went through the flood that, you know, of Noah and his descendants. So that happens during this 22-year period of time. So you can write that in at 1925. I meant to put that on there and didn't. But during this time, Egypt had 18 different pharaohs in 22 years. Woo, how organized they were. Babylon, in this same period of time, had 2 kings, and Assyria had 2 kings. Get this, 22-year period of time, the Sumerian kingdom had 25 kings. So what is starting to happen is that Sargon, you know, that general, is starting to war and take over cities and fight back and forth. It's the beginning of what will eventually become the great Assyrian Empire. But at this period of time, he's causing nothing but trouble. I mean, some of these guys didn't last a whole year then, right? 25 kings. So Sargon, as we said, had become the king of Kish, would be the proper way to say this one. He makes Akkad, because he starts the Akkadian Empire from Akkad. So he starts out at Kish, he takes Uruk, he takes Ur, and some people have said that might be another reason why Terah and Abram and the family took off to Syria, because this guy was stirring up a lot of trouble. Because he does conquer the town of Ur and make it part. But it hasn't become the great Assyrian Empire, but it will eventually. So if you go back and think about what we've heard about that area, you know, Babylon, what was the other guy who tried to start an empire and thought he was God in that same area?
Nimrod.
Nimrod, right? We call people that, meaning that they're, I don't know what that means. It means, you Nimrod, I don't know what that means. But Nimrod was a great conquering king who tried to make an empire and build a tower up to God, right? And then God confused the languages, made them spread out, and things like this. And now you got another one coming on, right? Just like Nimrod, a conquering king who's trying to build another empire, and he does succeed eventually in them coming up with another evil empire. Evil empires are something that have been throughout history, haven't they? Then in 1923 BC, that's at the bottom of page 6, we find Abram in Haran. I guess you'd have to say Terah and Abram in Haran. So Terah is the 8th generation from Shem. He's Abram's father, and he moves the family from Ur back to Haran, and he dies there. So looking at this map, I always hit the wrong button. Looking at this map then, you see, first of all, down here in Sumer is the town of Ur, right? Now, I want to remind you that Terah had moved the family from up in that area down to there. You recall that? And why was he moving south? Well, at that time, they might have thought that's a pleasant place to be, between the Tigris-Euphrates River and near the coastline there, and lots of business, because Abram seemed to be a businessman, right? And traded, and probably caravans and things of that sort. But why did he leave there? We're not told, except the fact that we have a spirit. So, 3 possibilities. And I'll ask you which one you think is biblical. God said to Terah, go to Canaan.
I thought you told Abraham to go.
Yeah. Well, what is it? What's the answer?
He told Abram, he didn't say he said, told Terah.
Yeah, he said, which one is biblical? I don't know.
No, that's a different question.
What's Abram?
Yeah. So, let's go back and look. We're in Genesis, right? All right. You got it? Go ahead. Yeah.
It's verse 31 in chapter 11. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram. They settled there.
All right. So, two things to note in there.
He did die there.
Yeah, two things to note in that. What was Terah's death? That it does not say that the Lord said to Terah, right? But it does say later, as we'll see, that the Lord says to Abram.
That's in chapter 12.
Yeah, you get up from here and go to where I'll show you, right? And so I go back again. So we've X'd out. God told Terah to go to Haran. So which is it? Flooding or a dangerous king? Could be both. If the water was rising on you and there was a king trying to kill you, it's probably a good time to leave. Yeah. But I think it's interesting to note that Terah, right there, but he was intending to go all the way to Canaan, right? That was his intent. And I wonder sometimes why. This is where his family would have been from, right? Where he knew. But also remember this. This line right here is called the Fertile Crescent. Trade routes go through there. Abraham was a businessman. Caravans, trade routes. This would have been known to him. He might have seen that that's a land of milk and honey over there, right? And maybe that's why he intended to go there. So I find it interesting that there's historical context to him moving from this place down here that was becoming very dangerous to live in, to go back to a place he knew, Haran, in the Syria area, where his family was from, you know, as moving down from Turkey, the line of Shem, and the family up there, and probably down here, let me just wipe that. Well, down, I'll change the color. Let's see here. Down here was very pagan area. They had not stayed faithful to the covenant of the Lord. And so maybe Abraham was trying to, Terah was trying to help them out with that. And he did train them very well, right? We find out later, you know, by looking at Abraham, that Terah did a good job of, and of course he dies there. Now I have another period here of 1923 to 1922, 1 year. There's just 1 year between events is the reason I just do one. There's one reigning king in the Sumerian kingdom, one king in Babylon, two pharaohs in 1 year, and one Assyrian king during that period of time. And then, of course, as we've just said, we know that Terah, the son of Nahor, the son of Sarong, the son of Reu, the son of Peleg, the son of Eber, the son of Salah, the son of Artaphexad, the son of Shem, dies. And so Terah dies there in 1922. Now, you'll notice that there's another thing listed in 1922. You see what that is? The first biblical famine. And so this is not the famine of Joseph, but it's the first one recorded in the Bible. It's the one that we've mentioned that some people think Shem if he was down in Egypt, Amenhotep, Shem, that there's Egyptian history and things that shows that this person of peace comes and helps them to understand, to build storehouses, to store up for a possible famine to come. And so if you put those together, if that is the case, or whether it is the case or not, there's evidence in Egyptian history that they did prepare for a famine to come. And I showed you a picture of that complex related to Amenhotep that they have found storerooms that still have grain on the floor. If so, and when I say if, it means there is no set in stone evidence. This is what people are thinking. But I want you to hear these because it shows you that there's interplay between history and the events of the Bible. And these things are possibly happened. Shem lived 500 years after the flood. What did he do? He's of the line of Messiah. He probably was preaching in some way, probably was helping people in some way, doing what God had called him to do. And that's why he has a place of prominence in the Bible. Well, if this happened, that a man of peace, a descendant in the line of Messiah, the son of Noah, who lived before the flood and 500 years afterwards, came down there to his cousins, the descendants of Ham, and being the spiritual one, tried to show them the way when they were wandering away. And one of the ways he showed them that is saying, there is a famine coming, and you need to be ready. Why is it that Egypt was ready to hear Joseph say the same thing? Maybe it had happened before. Right? And maybe Pharaoh, being the one who probably knew history, knew that before somebody from over in that land came and helped us. And here's Joseph from that same direction and that same line here to tell us again, you need to be ready. Right? Why else would he be so ready to make him second in the kingdom? Just because he interpreted a dream. You know, there may be more to these stories than we initially think. But for tonight, with 2 minutes to spare, the first biblical famine is where we start next week. That's pretty good timing right there.
Joseph, that was the second one.
That would be the second biblical famine. And this is biblical because it is recorded in the Bible, which we'll see next week. All right, any questions? Anything?
You talk about civilization found offshore.
Yeah.
We got an example of that.
In Beaufort County.
Yeah. Sea rose 5 the ocean faded away and the road went down.
Went down under.
But it's probably surrounded by trees. It was in cities that farmed now.
They hooked on there. And you can imagine the massive amount of change of the sea line at the end of the age, what that would have done to these civilizations that were right on the shore. Probably it might have a relationship to the stories that were. What's the Greek guy? Plato. Isn't it Plato that talked about Atlantis? Isn't he the one that passed on those stories? I might be wrong on that, but one of the Greek writers passed on the stories of Atlantis, and we're still looking for it, right? But that could have been one island civilization that after the ice age was totally submerged, or it could have been some other catastrophic event. But all these things kind of connect. Well, let's pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity of being together tonight. We thank you that your story is true and that it maps through the story of human, that it points to one inevitable fact, and that is that you promised that you would send the Lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world,